Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Nam Phan of Pacific Private Money. Mark Hunt is off today. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during this show. And that certificate's not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. Today's trivia theme is general trivia. Nam.
General trivia. All right.
General. And it's not about generals or colonels or majors.
General trivia. No. All right.
So
well, I'll probably get 1 out of 3 like usual.
Now these ones, let's see here. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Okay. So, Nam, you have a couple of articles you want to share with us? And then I got a couple.
Yeah. So we just came out of the election, although some would say it's still disputed as to who won. But this article starts with what a Joe Biden presidency means for real estate and housing. From Joe Biden's campaign, here's how we can expect his administration to respond to today's most crucial housing issues. So this is kind of a forecast into, a Joe Biden presidency and generally Democratic presidency, and potentially what impact on housing we may expect. And so I'll jump into this. First, affordable housing. I'll just go through some of the highlights here. And this article is from Inman News, Lillian Dickerson, who's one of the staff writers.
Okay.
Affordable housing. The Biden campaign's housing proposal pinpointed the dearth of housing supply as a driving force behind the affordability crisis. In response, Biden has pledged to invest $640 billion in housing over the next 10 years. Among other things, the plan would provide financial assistance to help hardworking Americans buy or rent.
Okay. Hey, Nam, can you get a little closer to your microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how's that?
That's
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. It calls for increasing supply via investments in resilience, energy efficiency, and accessibility of homes. Moreover, it promises more construction and the refurbishment of affordable housing units through the establishment of a $100 billion affordable housing fund, which will include a $20 billion investment in the federal government's housing trust fund, among other investments. Hopefully that includes loosening some of the regulations, and this is going to be state requirements as well for building. So this particular, affordable housing is going to, maybe help some homeowners, but, where does housing stock and the increase in new development or new projects come into play? Don't necessarily see that in his plans. I'd have to look a little further, but some of the things that will affect it, though, in his plan, I think are going to affect it negatively, and that's on 1031 exchanges. According to this article, in order to fund a child and elderly care spending platform, Biden has proposed abolishing 1031-like kind exchanges for investors with annual incomes above $400,000, much favored benefit in the industry. The additional federal funds would allow Biden's administration to accrue $775 billion in government spending over the next 10 years to help provide care for those 2 groups. So they want to take some of the tax benefits from the 1031-like kind exchanges and take that tax and put it towards elderly and child care spending, like we often are suspicious of or suspect of is, well, if they do take away that like-kind exchange benefit, will those funds actually go towards, elderly care and child?
Sure, they will. Remember?
Yeah.
Just like Reagan says, I'm here from the government, and that I'm here to serve you, right?
Right. So, it sounds good on paper to a degree, but again, these things, the allocation of funds and use of the funds is something where I would be skeptical. It'd be great if there were direct correlation between these, rolling back these tax incentives and seeing it applied towards things like, elder care or child care. But again, just not counting. I'm not counting on it. So it'll be interesting to see, though, what happens over the next few years. We may see tighter regulations on lending like we saw at the end of the Great Recession with, the Tilla Respa. We are actually some of the beneficiaries of that hard money because it regulations were put on banks on certain types of loans to consumers that made it harder for banks to lend on, but benefited hard money lenders like us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we wouldn't be doing so many bridge loans today, I think, if there weren't some of these regulations placed on banks.
What's interesting too, with all this, talk about climate change and all that. I mean, I wonder what all these construction loans, just building of affordable housing. I mean, isn't that going to get the environmentalists to come out and say, you can't do that? That's not good for the environment.
Yeah. Or even more real issue is, depending on how seriously this, the new government will take climate changes, are things like coastal areas.
Yeah.
Could they say, listen, this place is going to flood per hour, per science in the next 50 years. Therefore, you're not going to be able to build along these coastal areas. So those are some interesting things that will come up. There's the real climate change, and then there's the projections that we all have to make and say, you know what, this area is going to be flooding in 50 years. We can't build now. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see.
I can see a lot of political stuff coming out of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Depends on what side of the mouth you want to talk out of. Depends on what your goal is. All right, we're going to cut to our first commercial trivia question here. And I saw this movie and I actually enjoyed it. It was pretty good. In what movie did Sean Penn play a mentally challenged man? Remember the movie? You do?
I think so.
Very good. All right. Good movie, actually. And I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was Dakota Fanning's first major movie herself, I believe.
Really? She must have been tiny.
She was little.
That was a long time ago. Little kid.
Call 888-912-1190. Excuse me, the first caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate. Again, here's the trivia question. In what movie did Sean Penn play a mentally challenged man? And it was not Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He was a little challenged in that movie, but this was when he was a man. All right, stay tuned. You are listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back.
Cool.
Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Edward Brown here along with Nam Phan, Pacific Private Money. Mark Hanf is off today. First trivia question was, in what movie did Sean Penn play a mentally challenged man?
Was that I Am Sam?
It was. Very good. You're one for one, my friend.
That was a really good movie. He did a really fantastic job. So.
He did. I really enjoyed it. So I was looking on Yahoo earlier today, and President-elect Biden wants to erase $10,000 for 37 million Americans in student loans. And I'm kind of, that turns out to be about $370 billion. So I'm kind of curious, what about those of us who paid our loans back? Do we get a refund? What about those people who were, who never took out loans?
Yeah.
Because they saved enough and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was very interesting. Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren want $50,000 eliminated from it. And Elizabeth Warren says it'll help close the racial wealth gap. What does race have to do with student loans? I understand about maybe it takes money and kind of pushes it back from one, from the government back down to the people in a certain area. But what does that have to do with race?
I guess, I would want to know what the qualifications are for you to have your student loan forgiven, or have, 50,000 or 10,000, whatever that amount is forgiven. What criteria are they using, or is it just across the board, forgiving that? And if they forgive it, who does that impact? Obviously the lenders. Who have these loans.
I believe they're federally governed. They're federally
governed. Oh, federal.
Guaranteed. So I don't think the lenders will get hurt on that personally.
Get hurt.
But that's what the plan is. It'll just basically have to raise taxes again, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm not against. I think the cost of tuition in college now is really, really high.
Too high.
Compared to what it was before. And, you know, in terms of how we arrived at the cost being what it is, not exactly sure. And I'm sure students today are having a harder time to afford college and their families.
Yeah.
But so the idea of giving them some sort of relief, I'm not against. It's just, you know, the unintended consequences of making these kinds of broad decisions are never what you think. So that's wow, that's good. That'll be interesting. But we'll see.
And,
I want my money back then.
Yeah,
for the student loan
exactly.
that
I already
paid
paid my loans off many years ago.
Yeah,
And then, you know, they're also talking about Social Security, you know, because we all know it's going to go broke by 2035 or whatever. And they want to increase the amount at which it gets taxed. Right. Right now, if you're a wage earner, 137,000 is worth the bulk. Yeah, roughly. I think it's 137.8 or something like that. The bulk of it gets taxed at the major 6.2%, and the balance, the 1.45 gets percentage gets, you know, unlimited on that. And they want to make that now. I think it's 400,000. They want to tax. You know, I just hate the idea of just more taxes in general.
Right.
You know, how about you got so much money? Why don't you just work on the expense side of things? You know, and control your expenses. That's what I can't stand about socialism as compared to capitalism. Capitalism, and I've been trying to teach my kids this, even though they're a little older. Capitalism is basically everybody has equal opportunity, and then whatever you do with that opportunity is up to you. With socialism, it's more of no, everybody's got the same result. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to sit home and watch Oprah every day and expect to get, you know, as much as the next guy who's working 20 hours a day, right? Why should I work if I, you know, and that's why productivity goes down. So it's a lot better to give people an incentive to go back to work. Which, speaking of work, the other thing I wanted to mention here is Dr. Michael Osterholm. He's part of Biden's coronavirus task force, is floating the idea of a national lockdown. Now, what's that going to do to the economy if you have a national lockdown? You know, it's so funny because Trump basically had said, you know what, I'm going to leave it to the governors of each state to decide what to do with their state. But, you know, and then people yell at him for what happened with virus. I could guarantee you, mark my words, of course, can't go back in time, that if he would have done a national, hey, we're going to do this, and taken over all the states, don't you think people would have been upset with that?
Possibly, yeah, probably.
Possibly.
You know, so
of course they would.
well, half the nation's always PO'd at the other half, no matter what.
Yeah,
so,
but that would have been a dictator, basically.
But then you know what? If it actually worked, then people would be upset during those 30 days or whatever, but they may forget about it afterwards if people got over it. The challenge with leaving it up to the individual governors is that if one governor says lockdown, the other one says totally open place, people cross borders all the time, so it doesn't really work.
That's a very good point.
So you may have to take some drastic measures. So I'm not necessarily against lockdown, but at the same time, it has to be really well thought through, because literally if everyone stayed in place for 30 days, then you could, then you'd have to have closed borders with other countries too, especially those that have, don't have any restrictions. But if you literally locked everyone down for quarantine for however long it took for the virus to pass through, then you would come out the other side with much fewer cases.
If they can, have they proven that 30 days is the magic time, or 2 weeks, or 6 months?
I mean, they're telling people to quarantine for 14 days, that the virus can't, you either get over it or you get sick and you're hospitalized and you're in a controlled environment there. But yeah, I think they have probably enough data at this point to say that seems like 30 days would be. I mean, it seems like that definitely seems like enough. I mean, I watched the end of Notre Dame game, and they took, I think they beat, was it Michigan, or they beat somebody, and thousands of people just rushed onto the field. Oh, right. Yeah,
And
that
I'm
was
thinking,
Clemson. They beat
Petri
Clemson.
dish, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, and and you do a lockdown, and how can you control college kids, right? That's exactly
That's
right.
they're probably the biggest spreaders of them all.
Yeah, super
Um,
spreaders.
all right, we're going to get to another commercial break. When we come back, Nom's got a deal of the week, and then
Yeah,
also the email comes in and says, please explain how you can help buyers of homes to make what looks like an all-cash offer. That'd be
great.
a very interesting email to answer. Okay,
Yeah.
here is our second trivia question. We have to kind of go back to a little bit of mythology on this one. Who met Cyclops on his third voyage? That's our trivia question. Call 888-912-1190. First call with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate, which is worth over $100. Who met Cyclops on his third voyage? You know this one, Nom?
I think
If you
maybe.
think so, you probably do have it correct.
Yeah.
I would think so. All right. Again, when we come back, Nom's going to answer the question about buying homes with what looks like an all-cash offer, and give us some deals of the week. And stay with us. You are listening to The Best of Investing. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with Nom Fawn. Second trivia question: who met Cyclops on his third voyage?
Was it Sinbad?
It was Sinbad.
Yay, 2 out of
Not
3. Woo.
not the tall comedian Sinbad, but Sinbad the sailor. All right.
There were some great TV shows or movies back in the
Yes.
early 80s, 70s, all the Sinbad movies.
Yeah, in fact, in the 60s too, like with Jason and the Argonauts and all that.
Yeah,
Those guys, the
those were
skeletons.
awesome.
That's really
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I
That was
love
really
those
high
guys.
tech when I was little.
Yeah.
First of all, let's get into email time. It says here, please explain how you can help buyers of homes to make what looks like an all-cash offer.
Yeah, so good question from the emailer. So what are they talking about? When you're a home buyer and you're looking for homes to buy, you make an offer, then typically you're either making an offer to buy that home and the proceeds you're using to buy that home are coming from a loan, or maybe you have all cash. You're not having to get a loan, so that's called an all cash offer. And in today's market, it's a hot market. I mean, we've been talking about this for the last several months. It seems like it's a hot real estate market. And when it's a hot real estate market, and when we say hot, it means that there's a lot of buyers. Sellers are having an easier time selling their properties, more demand than there is inventory of homes or supply of homes. So that's a hot real estate market that we're experiencing right now. And so any single property, if it's priced right and updated, is going to get a lot of offers. And inevitably in the Bay Area, many of these offers are from borrowers who are bringing all cash, so they're not needing a loan. Well, if you're one of those borrowers who has to get a loan, and because you have a home to sell still, so you can't use all the cash that you've from the sale of your home, then you're going to have to get a loan. And when you're making an offer, and that seller sees 5 offers come in, 3 of them are all cash, and the other 2 have a loan.
Yeah.
Well, generally, as a seller, you're going to say, I'm going to take that all cash offer. And the reason why is all cash means more certainty of closing. They don't have a loan that could fall through that would cancel the purchase of my home if I'm the seller. So if you're a buyer who has to have a loan and you have a home to sell and you want to be competitive in that situation, what you can do, as many people have done through Pacific Private Money, is get a bridge loan. And that bridge loan essentially allows you to make a loan that is not dependent on the sale of your...
We make an offer.
Make an offer, excuse me. Make an offer that's not dependent on the sale of your home. We can provide a loan for the purchase of that home. And although it's not all cash, it's very similar to all cash, because you're basically saying, hey, I can buy this house and I don't need to sell my current home first. So there's no sale contingency. It's not contingent on the sale. Time. Yeah, and I can close quickly. And that's not the only reason why a home buyer would use a bridge loan. The other benefit is not only so you can compete against all cash, but so you can only have to move once.
Yeah.
Because
good point.
if you can get that home first, the one that you're buying, you can move in, vacate your current home, and you can make updates. So you only have to move once. You can make updates to the home that you're moving out of before you list it, which we've talked about staging on several shows with Patty Cohen, and that really improves the saleability and also increases the potential sales price of the home that you're selling. So there's a lot of conveniences. It gives you the ability to make those updates to the home that you're going to be selling for and sell it for a higher price. There's a lot of different reasons why a bridge loan makes sense in this time, but inevitably the big one is being able to make a non-sale or almost cash-like offer.
And how do people get a hold of you if they need money
Yeah.
for that purpose?
If they need a loan, give us a call at 415-883-2150, or you can go to our website, which is www.pacificprivatemoney.com. If you go to the borrower section, you can learn more about our bridge loans. But really, just give us a call. And if you're a realtor, give us a call, because it's just another great way to be able to provide solutions for your home buyer. And if you're a mortgage broker, it's a great way to get your client into a home quickly with our bridge loan, and then you can provide the refi loan to them so that they can have a low rate long-term loan. We're not long-term lenders. We're really short-term. We solve that sort of short-term issue of getting into that home. Usually they're on a loan for about 3 to 6 months, and before they refinance into a conventional loan at today's really low rates, which are in the 3s, I think, as of the recording of the show. So
I'll tell you what, give us a deal of the week. Let's see what kind of deals of the week you got.
So this particular deal of the week is kind of like the perfect bridge loan, and all of the reasons why people come to us. This one's a purchase in Green Bay, California, for purchase price is $2.5 million essentially. They're getting a loan for $2.3 million, so that's really close to the value of the home. It's probably 90% or so of the actual purchase price of the home. You could think, well, geez, 90 loan to value. We've talked about 70% loan to value in previous shows as the max it will lend to, but they're using other properties, so they're cross-collateralizing. And when you cross-collateralize, you're using equity in both homes and any cash you're bringing in, against the value of the two properties. In this case, the total combined loan to value is 74%. This person has perfect credit. So you could say, why would they need to go to Pacific Private Money? Well, it's exactly the reason I talked about before, is they don't want to sell their departing residence, or won't have time to sell their departing residence in order to use the proceeds towards the purchase. Even though they have perfect credit, they still can't get a loan until they sell with a conventional bank. Excuse me. They can't get a loan with a conventional lender until they sell their other property, which is also in Green Bay. So this bridge loan we're making is so that they can make a non-sale contingent offer, which they got, was accepted. We're going to close this in 3 weeks. They'll be able to move into their home and sell their departing residence. Again, perfect credit, professionals making a lot of money. They just need a bridge loan to be able to close on.
Anyway, we'll come back to that. All right, third trivia question: what band performed the theme song from the TV show Friends? What was the band? All right, 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate. Stay with us. The Best of Investing. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing one more time. Edward Brown here, along with Nam Phan. What band performed the theme song from the TV show Friends?
I don't know that.
But you remember the song? I'll be there for you. The Rembrandt.
Oh, the Rembrandt. Yeah. Okay.
We got 2 out of 3. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That would be great for baseball, but if you're doing math, that would be a failing score. Getting 60.
That would be.
Not good.
That's a D. A solid D.
A solid D. Yes. You said you have another, excuse me, another article to share?
Yeah, so we were talking about COVID earlier. This is an article that says what a COVID-19 vaccine would mean for mortgage rates and the housing market. And this came out today, 11:59 by Jacob Massey. I think this might have been an Inman News article. You know, it's interesting. Since the last show, you know, we heard news that Pfizer's come out with a vaccine that's 90% effective. Obviously, it's still early, I'd say, but that's encouraging news. But what happens if we have this vaccine suddenly available to everyone? That would be really interesting, another behavioral phenomenon that would happen, just like COVID really affected behavior across the country, across the world.
As long as they don't grow a third eye.
Yeah, you're cured, but now you have 3 eyes.
Yeah,
that
could be a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. So it says here, in many ways, the pandemic has driven this home buying craze. Experts say they're talking about the reckless abandon with which people bought homes shortly after, you know, April or so, or June in our case in the Bay Area. In many ways, the pandemic has driven this home buying craze. Experts say this has been an accelerant to lifestyle and behavior changes that were already underway, meaning probably you know, people working remotely, people moving out of the urban areas. But now the end of the pandemic may be in sight. On Monday, the COVID-19 vaccine candidate from BioNTech and Pfizer became the first to demonstrate it could protect people from contracting the illness in a phase 3 clinical trial with a reported efficacy rate of 90%. What's more, Pfizer's vaccine candidate is taking a similar approach as some of the vaccines being developed by other companies, meaning that other vaccine candidates could hold similar promise. So they could have multiple pharmaceutical companies coming out with vaccines, which, you know, would be interesting how quickly it could be deployed across, you know, the entire population. But suddenly you'd have enough.
Would they give it for free?
Well, yeah, right.
I mean, or is this a public good that the government would just pay for it?
Some of these pharmaceutical companies.
Well, no, they don't have to do it for free, but would the government pay for it?
Right.
The government would pay
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, I'd see some subsidies certainly. But then, what if tomorrow you could learn that, hey, you could walk around without a mask, you can go to crowded places so long as you got this vaccine? What would happen? Would people suddenly, you know, abandon their home search and say, you know what, it was really inconvenient to uproot my family now than it is just to stay where I am and leave, you know, lead life like normal?
I don't know the answer
to that. Yeah, I don't know, but you know, if a vaccine is close at hand and it could be distributed, you know, equally across a large, you know, populated area, what would happen? So they're saying that, you know, the end of the pandemic would eventually push mortgage rates higher. Often economists' predictions with regard to interest rates don't pan out. Forecasting mortgage rates has been an economist's fool's errand for years. And I think we've seen that. You know, we've attended so many events where they said, oh, rates are going to go up 2 years from now. The next 2 years are okay. And 5 years later, rates have actually gone the reverse. So it's hard to say, but they're saying, you know, they could go back up. Back at the start of the pandemic, most economists and mortgage industry experts didn't expect rates to drop below 3%, but that's just what happened. So they're saying in the near term, they'll stay low, but they'll likely go back up. In time, vaccine would naturally cause rates to rise. It should push overall interest rate up because it improves prospects of economic growth. So, but they're saying refinance will continue even if rates go up. As of November, there were roughly 18.5 million homeowners who could stand to shave at least 0.75% off their mortgage rates by refinancing. So that will still happen. But, you know, if things kind of go back to normal, then, you know, people may say, you know what, people who haven't already made the change, they say, you know what, I'm going to stay put. You know, because changing now is no longer a necessity, but really a lifestyle choice. And I'm comfortable where I am, and so I'm going to just stay where I am. So we'll see what happens. But, you know, the next couple months, the next 60 days will be very telling with respect to, you know, is COVID going to be eradicated or greatly controlled?
Well,
And
it's interesting with the 1918, 1919 pandemic. What happened after that? You had the Roaring Twenties,
right,
right? And then eventually the crash
yeah,
in 29. So I wonder
yeah,
if the same sort of thing would happen, where we somehow
yeah.
just get an economic boom.
I think so, because all of these, I think, I mentioned this before, all of these millennials who have been staying home with their parents are accumulating wealth because they're not paying rent or they're not paying for food. They're able to, they're not spending money
Not spending on it, yeah.
on, and so with these low interest rates, there's probably a greater affordability for first-time home buyers. So we'll see. I know real estate prices have gone up, but that's in dense major metro areas. So I could see there continuing to be a housing boom because you've got this population that hasn't tapped into ownership yet and will be. So
Yeah.
I'm bullish. That's my 2
Now,
cents
San
on it.
Francisco's seen about a 20% drop and 25% drop in rental rates. What about the sale of houses? Do you know?
Yeah, I think, when Patty was on, maybe not last week, but maybe the show before, she said, single family residence prices hadn't dropped a lot. I think they were a lot's all relative, maybe in the 5 to 7% range.
Yeah.
But condo prices had gone down, but condo prices are the entry level homes for millennials. So maybe you'll see that market pick up some.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because cities are still really attractive. I mean, especially if you're young. So, I could see still a lot of movement in real estate and housing. And again, you've still, California and many other places are just undersupplied with housing. And so construction lending is still going to be something that we're bullish about. We've got our construction fund. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah. Well, when we come back, we'll also talk a little update on the Pacific Southwest Note Fund, which it's kind of interesting because there's been a tremendous interest from the public on that fund because it's paying, right now it's actually paying more than the minimum 9%. And I mean, who's paying 9% nowadays? That's ridiculous.
Yep.
But it just started not too long ago, and so far everything's looking pretty good. But there is a negative to it. And the negative is that the fact that people have to wait in line. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but there's not enough product yet, and it'll take a little while to get all that product in. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. So stay with us. The Best of Investing will be back with some closing comments. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Nam Phan. We did miss Mark Hunt today. No trivia question, but so Nam, before we cut the break, we were just starting to tease the audience a little bit about the Pacific Southwest Note Fund. And that's the one where we're buying notes from sellers at a discount, right?
Yeah, so we're buying the Pacific Southwest Note Fund is our first fund that's out of California focused in terms of the kinds of loans that that are in the fund. And these loans are essentially seller carryback loans, which we are purchasing from sellers. And a seller carryback loan, if you don't know, is one where the borrower is getting a loan from the home seller, and that seller is then carrying the note. But there's a marketplace for purchasing these notes from sellers who, for many different reasons, want to liquidate the note or cash it out, essentially. Some of our criteria for buying these notes are, number one, we'll only buy them if we can get them at a discount. And also, we want to make sure these notes or these loans are seasoned. And seasoned meaning that the borrower has been paying consistently on these notes for a certain amount of time. And this, in our case, I think it's anywhere from 5 to 10 years. So there's a track record of borrower being able to pay and afford the loan. So we're not buying a loan that the borrower just got from the seller, 2 months ago. We're buying them where there's a track record. And Pacific Southwest Note Fund, this mix of loans that we can buy at a discount plus the interest rate that these borrowers pay can yield a return of 9 to 12% annualized to investors in the fund. And as you were mentioning, Edward, we've got a lot of interest in it right now, and it's just starting out. So we're ramping up the loan demand or closing loans in the fund. So we're just trying to make sure we're matching the supply of capital coming in with the ability to deploy that capital. So right now it's taking a little bit longer. So if you want to invest though and not lose your spot, so to speak, then better to invest sooner than later. But we'll be realistic with how long we think it'll take to deploy. In the meantime, we've got multiple funds, and the next fund event that we will be talking about is November 18th, which is this coming week. It's this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. And if you haven't done so already, you can go to our website and register under the events section of www.pacificprivatemoney.com, because we'll talk about the North Star Capital Fund. It pays 8 to 10% rate of return. The Freedom Fund, which is a fixed 7%, but it's high liquidity. And then our Legacy Fund, our kind of bread and butter Pacific Private Money Fund, which is paying a 7.5%, but we've got a 7-year track record, well, 7+ year track record with the Pacific Private Money Fund. So give us a call at 415-883-2150, or again, go to our website, www.pacificprivatemoney.com. And then lastly, too, just should mention that if you are not accredited, or even if you are, but you just want to invest in individual deeds of trust, then we have our trust deed marketplace, which is www.privatemoneyloans.com. So many, many different ways to invest. We haven't slowed down, even though it's the end of the year. We're going to go into the holidays with a lot of business. So
very good. Thank you again for joining us, Tom. Here's our thoughts for the day. Do you know that this will be the first year my family and I can't go skiing in the Alps because of the pandemic? Normally it's because we can't afford it, or we don't know how to ski, but it's because of the pandemic. And don't worry about the world ending today. It's already tomorrow in Australia. There you go. That's not a great way to look at it?
Tomorrow somewhere.
And tomorrow somewhere, exactly. All right. Well, for those in the audience, again, call Pacific Private Money at 415-883-2150, or go to their website, www.pacificprivatemoney.com. I like to say it slowly so people understand. All right.
I know.
Tune in
Thank
next
you.
See, you know it so well, it just comes rolling right up the tongue. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.